going to be working with Atlas's hind legs, so I still kind of use the mounting block. We're still pretty new at like holding them up and picking them out, so he does know how to pick them up when I ask, and now he just kind of wants to anticipate a little bit. So I really don't want him like lifting that up unless I've asked, and I want him to be really soft with it too. So he kind of wants to, as soon as I hold onto his foot, he wants to kind of swing it around, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to let it go, give him a pause, and then try again. So there we go. So now see that time where he picked it up really softly, he held it nicely, and then I can reinforce that. So the times where he's kind of moving around, I'm not going to punish him. I'm not going to scare him because I have a higher likelihood of getting kicked and he won't learn anything good from that. But what I do is I ignore that and I reinforce the behaviors that I want. So again, there I picked it up. He was really soft and gentle, and I reinforced. Same thing here. See, that first time he was like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm really comfortable with this, or he thought maybe he should lift his foot up higher or something like that. But I've been reinforcing all the things that I want, so that behavior is going to happen more frequently in the future. So now I can run my hand down his leg and he picks up his foot right away. He's nice and soft. He holds it softly, and there's no lifting, there's no kicking. So that's kind of the process that I'm using. I'm going to give him a little jackpot because that was really awesome. So the hind feet have been a journey, but we're figuring it out and we're taking it slow, and it's working out well. So I always do the work on the front feet first. Those are always going to be a little bit easier, and then work on those hinds. So I'll give them a little bit of break, and then we'll work on that a little bit more. Once I've got the foot lifting up pretty solidly, then and softly, then I can start increasing the amount of time that he can hold it up, and then I'll start with picking it out and stuff like that. So that's kind of the process or the order of exercises that I do. Have him back up. That looked pretty nice, and I just ask him to move to the other side of the mounting block here. Again, I just kind of use that as a little bit of a barrier. But he knows how to follow my hand cues and back up. He knows the cues for that and to change direction. So same process on the other side. I'm going to pick up that other hind foot. Again, pretty nice and soft here. Just hold it up for a second. And then I'm clicking as that foot is up and then reinforcing. So very nice. Clicking as the foot is up, putting it down nicely, and then bringing the foot up. And you can also do this with like a partner, so a second person who can feed the horse. And that might be necessary for some horses because some horses will not pair it as well. Like you definitely have to click while that foot is up so that they pair that the foot up and resting softly is the behavior that you want. You don't want to put it on the ground and then click because they're going to want that foot on the ground. So that there he kind of pulled it away. He didn't want to hold it up softly, so I let him have it back down. I give him a pause and I try again. So I'm not going to fight him. I'm not going to try to hold onto that leg. That's the only thing that's going to accomplish is to scare him and potentially get me kicked. There's no way I'm going to win that. He's a horse, obviously, so he's much stronger than I am, even though he's little. And it's just going to scare him, specifically Atlas, that will scare him. So I give him a 3-second pause and I try again. But if you have that second partner, you can have, if your horse is comfortable with it as well, and you can train up to that point, but then you can get that ground helper to feed the horse while the foot's up, put the foot down, stop feeding, that kind of a thing, so that they can connect it a little bit easier. Some horses struggle with that. I had a little bit of a time where like they wanted to put their feet on the ground, but really just the clicking worked out well for them. That marked behavior. They figured it out and it wasn't a big deal. But for some horses, they might need that. So I'm going to work also on walking around him. I want to build up to me walking behind him. I'm not in a huge hurry to do this behavior. It's just going to be over time. Like I walk in front of him and all this stuff. But I want to start at a good distance, obviously. I don't start by just going right around behind him. I do a lot of desensitizing, like you've seen. I've got like pool noodles, and I have the stuffed bear, and I have all the stuffed tarps and blankets that I want them to get used to before I actually go behind them. Even though I know, like, obviously, if you're really close to the horse, you probably aren't going to get kicked. I don't want to scare him either. I don't want to scare myself. So I do lots of preparation to get him mentally prepared for that exercise. So lots of me going around behind him. As I go right behind his tail, kind of in his blind spot, that's where I'm clicking, coming around and feeding him. So you just kind of saw me doing that a few times and kind of preparing for that. And then we're going to work on a little bit of tying. So he's kind of still at the point where he's just targeting the rope. The rope is still kind of scary for him, especially When it's up high, it's up by his face, it slides off, and we're going to work on those things. So call him over here to me. Again, he knows to go up to the hand target here, and he's done a little bit of this already, so he's pretty um, ready to go ahead and touch that rope. So he wants to come up and touch it, and we're just going to use it as a target just like everything else. You can use an actual like target or like a pool buoy or something like that. A lot of people use that, or like a piece of pool noodle. I like to start off with the rope because with my desensitizing progress and process, they're touching that rope when they're first seeing it before it's touching them. So that's just another thing that they target. And like you could take the pool noodle and the boat buoy and things with you, but I just like to have that rope because it's just kind of more commonly seen in the horse world. So they think of that as just a target, and then it's just another thing that I don't have to transition over to eventually. So he knows that if he touches this with his nose, he's going to get reinforced a lot. And so he's kind of like happy to touch it, and he's got this like he'll move his face, and then when he touches the rope, it moves, and the whole thing is positively reinforced. So he doesn't have to touch it in a specific way. I don't need him to raise his head or lower his head or anything. I just want him to touch it and be relaxed about it. So now I'm going to move it a little bit. See how he kind of pauses and he kind of looks at it and leans his neck a little bit back? That's where that fear is with the rope moving. And that's what we really want to work on. At this point, he's really good about touching it, but once it starts to move and kind of fall and drag on that panel is when it gets scary. So I've had him back up. I'm going to go to the other side and work on that. It's not so much that the rope is like hanging in the wind and moving side to side. He's not worried about that. It's that sliding. Because he did have a bad experience where it slid back and scared him. So, I think it looks like it's chasing him. It looks scary. And he's always had a fear of ropes since I adopted him. So, that's just another thing that we're working on, but this is the first step in fixing that. See how it moves just a little bit, and that reaction was a lot better. Once it fell on the ground, he was a little worried about that, but much better than that first reaction when I was on the other side of him. So that's really what I want to work on. So once we have that targeting behavior, and that's the first step that needs to be done first, away from the panel and away from tying, is just touching on that rope, and then now having it on the panel and now having it move. And ideally not that much. You could see when it kind of flew down, it kind of touched his face and he jumped a little bit. I need to start at a lower, just with lower intensity with the rope, where it just slides a little bit, I click and feed, and then slides a little bit, probably hold on to the rope a little bit more. It was just a little bit much. Obviously he's cool with this. He's coming back up, he's trying to touch it, so probably like right there. I should probably stop. That was better. And I should have reinforced that though. That was pretty good. It was a lot slower, but probably break it down just a little bit more than I did would have helped him. So that's just a training note for me to make it a little bit better. But I do like that I have to kind of back him up and ask him to come away with it because he really wants to go and touch it. So that is looking nicely. That means it's working pretty well. He also has a very nice backup, so that's really good. He's got that on that hand cue and a voice cue, so that looks really nice. And as soon as I put that rope up, he wants to come up to it and touch it. So that part is looking pretty good. We just got to work a little bit more on the rope moving and sliding after him, get lots of desensitizing done with that, and then I'll start sliding that rope through the halter. And that time looked even better, like it kind of slid all the way down, kind of touched him on the face, and he didn't seem bothered by it at all. So we'll work on that more, and then I'll start just kind of stringing that rope through the halter, and then build up to tying here. But yeah, it falls down again, and that looks great. So I'm just positively pairing it. So rope moves, great things happen instead of scary things happen.